All right. Welcome, Nick, to the WaveForm Unhinged podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude, of course. So, for people who haven't heard this podcast yet, this is where I kind of bring a guest on to talk about different topics. Probably going to be talking about a little about sound deadening, maybe. Who knows? But yeah, so I bring different guests on. We kind of get to talk about things that are questionable or just like I've heard that I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Throughout the audio community and get to kind of like the truth and the bottom line. So you're the expert when it comes to sound deadening in my eyes. So to start, I have a couple questions here. I'm going to start with, how did you get into sound deadening? Because, beforehand it was Apicella auto sound, right? And then there you go. And then out of nowhere, it was like, yeah, I don't do that anymore. And now sound deadening. So what happened?
Yeah, so I got into sound deadening because it was a necessary step of doing high-end sound systems, as you know, and as anyone probably watching this knows.
Yep.
And the short story is, when I first started Apicella Auto Sound, I was using products from a company called Sound Deadener Showdown, who arguably had the best constrained layer damper on the market.
CLD, for people who don't
know. And one day, I think it was February of 2018 or 2019, actually. It was 2019. And, I made an order and he emailed back saying, "Hey, Nick, thank you for the support over the years, but this is going to be your last order." And I was like, whoa, what, like, why? And he was like, "We're closing." And I was like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
What am I going to use? And I, to sum it up, I tried other products out there, all of the popular offerings. And, at that point, Chris Purdue, who does the testing for the Deadening group, he did have his first test rig and he did do some testing up to that point, actually a decent amount, but it wasn't as crazy as the current testing rig. And, SDS, Sound Deadener Showdown, their constrained layer damper did do the best, but it didn't really show a huge difference in the results. It's like, all right, yeah, it's the best, but like not by a ton.
Okay.
But then I started using other products that did close enough to it. And it turned out the difference from, a few dB in the testing results turned out to be pretty massive in real world application. When you're used to a certain standard and you're used to a certain quality, it's kind of hard to go back on, especially when Apicella Auto Sound was, our whole thing was delivering the best end results possible. And frankly, sound deadening, its constrained layer damper is relatively cheap compared to the rest of the sound system. So like for me to go from SDS to like a Dynamatic Stream or a Second Skin, Amplifier Pro or Stinger. Yeah, I tried all of them. I tried like 15 different products I ordered the smallest amounts of. And none of them, I was like, none of this is really cutting it. And I actually offered to purchase Sound Deadener Showdown from the previous owner, Don.
Okay.
And he just went ghost. Multiple people apparently tried to make that same offer to him. And apparently he just fell off the face of the earth. No one know what happened to him.
Hopefully you're all right, bro.
I don't know. I have no idea. Haven't heard from him since. And I was like, you know what? I know a lot about this stuff, and I'm also very resourceful.
Yeah.
I was like, I think I could get my own. And my original intent was just to supply Apicella Auto Sound with, a good material so my customers can have the same quality that they're used to.
Yeah.
Or that I'm used to. It's not like customers at that point were doing multiple systems with me yet. But because, we were very new. We were only a year in, if that. And I was like, yeah, I just want to be offering the best material for my customers and the best end result for my customer's dollar. And I was like, yeah, I can call around. I could definitely find who's, producing his constrained layer damper. Turns out it's very hard to find a good factory for stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it turns out even on the manufacturing side of things, it's loaded with the same. Am I allowed to curse on this?
Yeah, dude.
Podcast?
Yeah,
it's loaded with the same bullshit that our industry is loaded with. Oh yeah, we have the best this, we have the best that, and it's all
just the marketing bullshit. Yeah, gotcha.
yeah, it's all. I figured at the moment I'd be speaking to people that can like speak with me honestly and say, oh yeah, like this is the level of product we make, or we can make that, or we can do something different. It was like, oh yeah, no, ours is the best. Like here's a sample, and it's like, this is dog shit.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
What are you talking about? And fast forward, never found who actually made his. I have a hunch years later who did, but the long and short of it is, I got myself linked up with a very small producer of extruded materials, and we work together to create what is ResoNix constrained layer damper now. And at first, like I said, it was just going to be a thing where I was like, yeah, I just need materials for my shop so I could do them in installs.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh yeah, good one. Your minimum order quantities are X amount of pallets. And I was like, what? Like that'll take me a decade to go through, literally.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, what do I do? And I was like, you know what? Maybe I go for it and I just sell it.
Yeah.
I just sell it also. So ResoNix started as just a very small side hustle as a way to offer this good product to my customers in-house for sound systems.
So let me ask you two questions before we move forward. One, how long into, I guess, Apicella Auto Sounds did you realize that, like, okay, now Don, I think you said his name was, like, he's gone. And then, like, there was a brief period between you trying other stuff where you're like, all right, I just need to do my own. Like, what was that?
It was very quick. It was very quick. So I think it was February. I can honestly pull up the email to Don. I could give you exact dates if you want me to.
Yeah,
I mean, it's probably wasted time. I'll do it in the background.
Yeah.
But I think it was like February 6th of like 2018. And SDS sound.
So while you're doing that, so the ResoNix that I know started about or at least that I know, it was like 2 years ago. Like everyone knows about ResoNix. You're on strictly sound quality tagging at everyone. Everyone's getting pissed at you because you keep doing it, and you're like, fuck it, I do what I want. Typical Nick. So clearly you said that was ResoNix was a side hustle. So when did that transition happen where you're like, no, I'm doing this full time?
Okay. Full time as in no longer doing installs?
Yeah, kind of like when did you like switch gears? Because right now, like, you don't talk really much about tuning or like installs. Like, that's not your priority. Your priority, at least now, even with your new role, which is just managing ResoNix.
Yeah. So I'm going to be honest with you. There's going to be people out here that call bullshit on this. I'm legally not allowed to speak about it. Okay. Because for those that know, there was a situation with me and a former business partner, and how it ended was we both signed NDAs, and I am not allowed to even acknowledge that part of my life existed.
Yep.
Because he, again, not going to say it on recorded video.
Yeah.
For those that know what he did to me, and they had really nothing out of it. They couldn't get anything out of me. So, like, in order for us to just settle, I was like, how about this? I'll hand everyone else the keys to the king, hand you the keys to the kingdom to tell everyone, you started this, you did this. This is your baby, not mine. Have at it. So that person is still working 70 hours a week like a fucking dog and doing probably not much and using bot Instagram accounts to gain followers to make it look like they're doing something cool. And here at ResoNix, we are growing and growing and growing and growing and crushing it. And I'm so happy. And when that happened, it wasn't actually my choice. To answer your question, it wasn't my choice to go full swing into ResoNix. It was actually out of survival. Gotcha. A bad situation happened due to a scumbag of a former friend / business partner, and I had to get away to frankly make money and pay for lawyers' bills.
Gotcha.
And ResoNix was, this was in spring of 2023. So it was only 2 years ago.
Mm.
But, you know, one day everything was all good in the world. Actually, no. So I transitioned out. It was out of necessity, but like I started wanting to transition out. And then like a bad situation happened. It was kind of forced on me when I was already thinking about it.
Yeah.
And, and, you know, I can also add, leading up to that, I was working with a website developer / marketing guy. Frankly, the guy who developed my, you know, I don't even know if this is going to come out like this weekend. It's my current website. If it comes out in like 4 or 5 days, it is my old website.
Gotcha.
We're about to launch our new website in a few days now.
Okay.
But the guy who did my last website, which is a total piece of shit, and I no longer work with this individual, but I worked with him for years, and he kept telling me, he's like, dude, you need to start focusing more on ResoNix instead of the labor side of car audio. You have something special here, and you can do so much more with it as far as everything. And I was like, no. Like, I don't think I can. And like the market's too small for it. I was thinking way too small. I was thinking just car audio hobbyists. I wasn't thinking like broader than that.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I will give him this. As much as he kind of screwed me over on my last website and was kind of a piece of shit to work with towards the end, he was right about that.
Yeah.
I definitely should have went as hard as I possibly could with ResoNix from the start.
Hindsight's always 20/20 with that, though, you know, especially when you're putting all your chips in one car, and it's like, I really hope this works out, because if not, I'm fucked. So yeah, that's kind of what happened. Exactly. I mean, luckily for Bree and I, you know, like most people know I'm medically retired from the Air Force, so that kind of floats us. But when I quit my contracting job, working for General Dynamics, and then it was like, I'm going to do this. So when you first, like, not first met me, but 23 finals, I'm not sure if you remember, you sat in my car and I was like, yeah, I'm going to Kuwait. I'm not sure you remember, because that was happening. Like, I was going to be their senior intel analyst in Kuwait. And then not even a week down the road, they were like, you can't bring your family with you. I'm like, fuck that. Like, I'm not doing that again. Like, I've been through that before. I've been overseas without my family. I'm not doing that again. So that's when I quit. And I was like, well, what the hell do I do now? And then that's when WaveForm,
sitting at home, jerking off and doing
no, that's what you do. That's besides the point. But yeah, dude, I mean, I'm super happy that it worked out. I mean, I love your products. I've tried them pretty much all. And when I stumbled upon, it was FiberMat, actually. That was the first thing that like I stumbled upon, because my goal always is like, I want a quiet car, but I don't want a German car because I just don't trust the reliability. I just don't. I like a Japanese car. Funny enough, now I have an American car. Pray for me.
God bless,
Pray for me, bro. God bless. But it's not a quiet car. So then, you know, started doing research, and of course, like you and I were friends. You were like, FiberMat. I was like, all right, let me see what this is about. And like started putting on the fenders, and all of a sudden, like the car kept getting quieter and quieter. I'm like, okay, now we're cooking. But by then, I already had all Stinger Ultimate CLD, which we'll talk back into like the different sound deadening products. But I've always used that, so I already had that throughout my entire car. And then the FiberMat went on. Well, then Bree saw how quiet my car was, and she was like, hey, can you make my big 3-row that quiet? I was like, sure. Let me use all ResoNix and let me see what this stuff's about. So at least for me, I only use Mega CLD. Like, that's it.
You're crazy. So, because that can be a huge pain in the ass, depending on the location of the car.
It's not fun, but that's just what I use. And dude, I maybe use 50% coverage, 60% coverage with that. And her car was not only quieter, but like everything just felt more tighter. I'm like, ain't this some bullshit, dude? Like my comp car, which is 100% coverage, isn't even close. Like, you will knock on both doors and it was a true night and day difference. I was like, okay, this stuff's a real deal. Like, I need to, for all my customers that I talk to, and I was like, I need to start pushing them towards ResoNix, because if you're gonna, it shouldn't, once you put CLD on, it should never come off. And I say that for a reason. Should never. Some of the shit does come off real easily. So it's like, do it right the first time and you're good to go. So yeah, with my Tesla, as most people have seen in the YouTube videos, I went ridiculous. You said my order came in a pallet, but dude, that car is so quiet now.
Did it come in a pallet or no?
Not. You said that my order when it shipped into your warehouse was like an entire pallet of just my stuff, dude. There was
going outbound. I think it was.
Out. Yeah. But I mean, almost all of it is inside that car. I have a couple spare things because I haven't done the doors yet. I didn't have time. It's in Russ's hands now. But yeah, most of that whole pallet is in that Tesla, and that car is just so dead, dude. It's not even funny. But I'm glad, dude, that it all worked out, and now we're here offering good products with actual measurements. I'm so tired of when I started audio. I don't know, a decade now. It was like you could read through all the fluff and everything was the exact same. We're the best. We're the best. We're the best. And I'm like, okay, so who actually is the best? Because if everyone's saying they're the best, are they all just the same level of shit, pretty much?
That's pretty much what it is, to cut you off. It really, so I was explaining this to someone 2 days ago. Actually, no, I was explaining this to my girlfriend 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, like what even like happened? Like what's going on? I don't remember what the question was or how we even got on the subject, but like I came into the industry and disrupted everything that was happening. There were two sides of the sound deadening in the car audio industry. There was side A that has been there forever. And these were like the American based manufacturers where, the Dynamats, the Hush Mats, the Boom Mats, the whatever, and they've been there for decades, and they have the company and they have the sales reps internally. Then they have the regional sales reps. Then they have the distributors. Then they have the retailers, and then it goes to the customer. Yeah. And all of them have to make money. And you have this super thin, super nothing of a product, and they sell it for just as much as our product, which is better butyl formula, better type of aluminum, thicker butyl, thicker aluminum. And it's like, this doesn't make any sense. And it was like, yeah, for a while, for 15, 20 years, they had it good because everyone else in their real, any of their competitors, they were all on the same page. They're offering the same low quality in resonance control performance, but they are quality materials. They're just super thin. That's the thing. Yeah. They do well, they do fine in heat, they do fine for, whatever it needs to do as far as environmental considerations. But they're just so thin that they don't really do much for resonance control. There's that side of the industry. And then the newer side B, was, oh yeah, we're a marketing firm in the car audio industry, and we're going to sell all of these bullshit products that we can get our hands on and slap our logo on. And they were just ordering products from Alibaba, getting stuff from a catalog in China, slapping their name on it, and they don't give a shit about the performance. What it is. They just said, okay, we're going to buy it as cheaply as possible. We're going to make it as cool looking as possible. We're going to be able to do cool packaging and marketing and blah, blah, blah. And whatever the end cost is, we will multiply that by 8, and that will be our retail price. And then we'll have dealers and whatever in the middle. And, it's like a perfect example of that. Like the coolest brand in the industry that like the insiders are using is, it's funny, new website is going to be live very soon. Last night at 4 a.m, I was reorganizing the copywriting on the independent testing page. And I was just looking at it and I was like, it's so funny that the most expensive per square foot product is also the worst performing product.
Can you mention a name?
SoundShield.
Gotcha.
Yeah, SoundShield. It is what it is. It's going to upset some people, but dude, if you don't want to hear that, like your product's out in the public, it's able to be scrutinized and it's all independently tested. And if you want to argue otherwise, go send it for, composite loss factor testing. I've offered this, when Chris originally released the testing, the owner of that company kind of came in. I don't have anything against him. He seems like a very nice guy. I've never really met him before though. But I also can sit here and say like, yeah, dude, like your product's not good. I understand the point of it, but it is what it is. It's not a performer, period. And you're more the marketing route. I get it. But to sit here and try to explain otherwise is kind of silly. But he came in and made a big post like, oh, there's more to a sound deadener than, this testing. And it's like, it's all marketing bullshit, but whatever. And I was like, hey, well, if you don't like this testing that Chris is doing, and there's other manufacturers that have done the same thing. Oh, Chris's testing is bullshit because ours isn't number one, or ours didn't do as good as we wanted it to. I was like, oh, if you think that's bullshit,
go do your own.
Send it to No, not even. Don't even do it yourself. Send it to an accredited lab to do SAE J1637 testing. And it's relatively inexpensive compared to how much, of these products you sell. It's not cheap, but it's not crazy expensive unless you're like some super small company like ResoNix was the first month that it started. But, I'll look here. I'll even give you the contacts to get it done. Tell them I sent you. And no one will do it. If you look, there's only a few companies that actually publish all of their actual lab testing.
Yeah.
And I think these are important. I do think Chris's independent tests show more at room temperature, how the product is behaving and exactly what it's doing. And where the SAE J1637 comes into play is it's more consistent from test to test. Like it's like a very strict standard, but also it tests across varying temperatures. So I like to look at both of them and be like, okay, how does the product behave on a test panel as far as frequency response, as far as its decay over time? You can see that with the waterfall graphs. And then let's compare that to the composite loss factor testing across various temperatures and just see how it behaves across temperature. And, it pretty much paints the entire picture of what the product is.
Good or bad.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've kind of now get an understanding of like why you started ResoNix, the different offerings that you have, the industry offerings, and why you came into play and kind of like what you're doing so well is because you kind of skipped the marketing, not really in such a way like you're not marketing, but like you weren't about it to make Instagram look good, No. And that's one thing I love about your product personally.
Actually, I had it's funny you say that. I had it in my calendar today. I had my first thing for today was actually my only thing for today besides this podcast was make ResoNix Instagram post for micro precision amps at 9 a.m. I slept right through that alarm. Dude, like I said, I was up super late working on the new website.
Yeah. The one thing I love about your product, and right now we're just talking about CLD. We're gonna get into the rest of the offerings here shortly. But my OCD is happy that I don't have a fucking logo on it because then I don't have to line it up. I can just cut it and just be happy because it's all gonna look uniform anyway.
Yeah,
and it just makes so happy. It was funny when I first started doing the Stinger Ultimate. Was like we have foam and it does this and that, and like now seeing like nowadays like what all the man, I'm like, dude, that does absolutely dick. That does nothing.
I don't want to say it does nothing, but it doesn't do what they're implying it does.
Correct. They're implying that it absorbs low end frequency. Like I'm just like, no, that doesn't help. Now, cool. It's another decoupler. Sure. Awesome. Right. Yeah. But it's not what they're.
It's also not a good one.
Yeah, but it's just not the marketing that they're saying is not accurate. No. So yeah. Now let's talk about the reason why I really want to like set this up was
I see you're looking at notes. So
I am.
Can I bring something up before you go on? So you mentioned something. You mentioned I love how you have no logos.
Yes.
This is something actually I didn't even think of this, but you brought it up and I'm like, ooh, I want to talk about that.
Talk to me.
Why do you think I have no logos?
I don't actually know. Maybe because your product stands for itself.
It does. The reason I have no logos, and you've gotten essentially an entire pallet full of my products.
Yeah.
What if you picked up that box and didn't see the shipping label where it was coming from? What about it stood out to you? Absolutely nothing at all, right? Yeah. The reason why is my whole philosophy with ResoNix is it's right on the homepage. If you go to the homepage of the website, it says it's the first thing on the website you see. Pure performance, no bullshit. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, we don't do any extra nonsense that's going to cost our customers extra money that is unnecessary. So to me, going about doing logos on a constrained layer damper that's going to be hidden behind a panel, cool. It looks cool. It looks clean, whatever.
If done right.
Gives a shit.
Yeah.
Like, who gives a shit? I actually did price it out. I was like, you know what? Let me see. This was like a few years ago. It's probably 3 years ago. I priced it out. And this is before the world got crazy and expensive. Actually, it was after COVID. So things were still a little crazy, but now things are getting more expensive and more crazy. So I couldn't even imagine what it's at now. But at the time, I was quoted an extra, it was like 94 cents or 93 cents per square foot each of my products is 1 square foot. Mm-hmm. It was 94 cents or 93 cents per piece to get it like logoed. And then it was an extra, there's another company, Second Skin Damplifier and Damplifier Pro, they do black and then their logos on top of the black. Yeah. To do that was even more. Wow. And it's like, and then there's other companies that do embossing, like the patterns, which is stupid because it lowers the performance of the product. And on the record, that embossing is not to gauge how much pressure you're supposed to roll down. Oh, roll it until those are flat. It's just to make the product look cool and catch your eye. I promise you, it's not there. So for those that are watching this and have made it this far, there you go. But yeah, I was like, I'm not going to spend an extra, dollar, cost and translate that to the customer. That's an extra. If I even broke even on doing that entire process, and by the way, that's just the process. That doesn't account for the custom die that has to be made, which would take like 6 to 8 months, they said, and would be thousands of dollars. And I was like, Jesus Christ. And then you have to get the custom aluminum. You can't just do the standard like batch order of aluminum. It's like, oh no, you have to do your own custom order. So the aluminum price would also go up with it. And I didn't even get that far. As soon as they told me, like an extra $1 or so, I was like, a box of extra $40 for my customer. The fuck is the point of that? No, it's like, it's hidden. If it was like an extra 7 cents per piece, sure.
Yeah.
I'll eat that. Whatever. $1? That's insane. Custom boxes where, it's black and has like the design and, different colors, instead of a $3, double-sided wall, like extra thick, heavy duty carton, like you got in the Mega CLD squares.
Yeah.
Instead of that $3.20 that box costs, going up to $9.50 for a custom heavy duty carton.
It's going to get thrown away anyway.
Exactly. What is the point? It's the customer spending extra money just so my stuff looks cool in there. I get it. I get the marketing standpoint of it, but it doesn't do anything for you.
Well, it doesn't align with your philosophy. So
exactly.
It makes sense on why it's simple. But funny enough, your lack of, I guess, marketing is your marketing. Because the second you see a whole bunch of just aluminum on a panel, you're like, oh, that's probably ResoNix.
Yeah.
Because almost nobody else has it like that. So it's like, without your marketing, you're doing your own marketing, which is,
kind of. There are other products out there, and they are like, I think HushMat is just plain aluminum. I think Sound Deadening Showdown used to be when they were still around, but other than that, I can't really think of anyone else that does just plain aluminum. And what's funny too is, even looking at that, I can tell which one is which because, again, we use a different grade of aluminum and it looks slightly different than others.
So real quick, you mentioned something and I want to talk about it.
No.
I see so many people always rolling the living fuck out of their CLD. I'm talking about beating it to death. So here on this podcast, how would you recommend people actually stick on your CLD?
Only enough pressure to get it fully adhered all the way through. Now, that could mean being very light. It could mean beating the hell out of it. It depends on what's going on. So I saw people talking about it recently on a post. I think people take that too far where, we include the roller in our CLD offerings, and it's a really nice roller.
It is.
We don't make it. I get it. It's some Chinese made roller. It's just a nice roller, and I include it for free. I don't know if you remember, but a pack of 40 of our CLD squares was always $340 for like the past 4 years. And when I added the rollers and had to adjust the cartons and include the cardboard that holds it in there, I didn't change the price at all. It's just like, cool, I'm just going to include the roller for free. Yeah. The one downside to it is it's an upside and there's a downside to it. The roller itself is metal. Like, it's really heavy. It feels really good, but its corners will put little ridges in the CLD. And I saw people having a discussion the other day on Facebook in the Deadening group, like, hey, like, how does my install look? And everyone's like, oh, you rolled it too hard. You rolled it too. It's like, all right, like, guys, calm. It's not that serious.
Yeah.
It's just like, don't beat the hell out of it. But like you're never going to have an install of constrained layer damper that looks picture perfect. It's just not possible. But
so don't use the one with ribs on them.
No. So what that does is it weakens the aluminum because the ribs create these little, ridges and bend points. And then 2, it also stretches the aluminum out and, puts little tears in it, and just not good. But, flat surface, roll it light. Just make sure it has full contact all the way through. But you're doing a complex shaped door panel, right? That it flows all over the place, and there's different curves and shapes and ridges and bumps. Beat the fuck out of it.
Yeah.
Get it fully adhered. Like, like you're on this really complex surface. Don't like just, roll it very lightly. I don't want to damage the seal. I take the back of it and I
do the same thing.
I mold it into place. Like, I use force.
What I've been doing lately, and I showed on the YouTube, was when they have, those little squares that's on like the back of door panels.
Yeah.
So I just take some of your butyl, put over it, and then put the aluminum. You actually see.
I saw you doing that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would do that.
It works. I try it. I'm telling you, it makes a good.
So here's my theory, because you use my butyl rope for that, right? Different butyl.
Okay.
Different butyl. Number 1. Number 2 is you get to a point. So I've had this conversation before with the engineer at the factory that I work with. What can we do to get, when I came out with Mega, right?
Yeah.
What can we do to make this better? Obviously, the butyl formula is as good as this gets. Yeah. We're using the best binding agent on the market. There's no fillers in this thing. Like, there's only a few ingredients, and this is like as good as it gets as far as the butyl formula is concerned. I was like, all right, that leaves us with the type of constraining layer, aluminum, the type of aluminum that we're using, and the thickness of the aluminum and thickness of the butyl. And they're like, well, going with another type of constraining layer is like, good luck with that. You'll start spending buckets of money for almost no reason. Okay. You're pretty much at the highest grade temper of aluminum without getting crazy. I actually even looked into pricing out stainless steel. And that was ridiculous. It would have made my product like $40 per square foot, but it would have been kind of crazy. I don't know how people would cut it, but that's up to them to figure out. And then I was like, all right, well, what can we do to get the butyl thicker? And they said, well, there's 2 problems with that. The first one is we can't. The extruder, like the extruders that you use for sheet butyl, typically only go up to 120 mil thick, which is what we use. And I was like, can we modify it? They're like, can we modify it? You want us to modify our tens of thousands of dollar machine because you want to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, fine. Like, well, is there anything? Can we get a different dye out of it? They're like, no, there's no way to make it thicker. And they're like, but number 2 out of it is you start going thicker and you actually start reducing the performance. I'm like, what are you talking about? And it actually makes sense. When you start getting too thick, you know how it's important to get into how butyl works in a constrained layer damper. It's viscoelastic, which means it is technically like a fluid, but when you stretch it, it snaps back into place.
Yeah.
Let's say, elastic, right? Elastic, like a rubber band stretches, and when you let go, it snaps back into place. Let's say you take a small rubber band and you start stretching it, and you stretch it. We have to stretch it this much, right?
Yeah.
When you stretch a small rubber band this much, it gets tight and you can't really stretch it anymore, and there's a lot of pressure. But let's say you take a bigger rubber band and you start stretching it. Here, there's not that much resistance. Yeah. So it's not really putting that same pressure that a thinner butyl is able to do. So this is actually, people that don't believe me when I say you can tune a constrained layer damper for different things and different frequencies and different panels and such, whatever. There's not a ton of variance, but like it is a thing.
Yeah.
And, it's a combination of, the constraining layer and the butyl and how they all behave together. So it was like, yeah, you start going thicker, you're going to start, you're adding mass, which will help performance some, but you're reducing, the amount of pressure it's able to hold from its elasticity. And I was like, oh, that actually makes perfect sense. Okay. They're like, yeah, there's a reason you don't see constrained layer dampers that are thicker than that.
Interesting.
So like,
in those squares, the reason why I've been doing it is because without it, I'm almost like really deforming the aluminum. Like
that's fine.
Because some of them are like, especially in the Mazdas, they're like, I don't know, 4 or 5 mils deep. Like they're deep.
Well, all right. So you said mils, 4 or 5 mils.
Yeah.
Mil is not millimeter.
Okay. Millimeter.
Mil stands for thousandth of an inch.
Got you. So millimeter.
Yeah.
So to me, I was like, why? Let's build it up a little bit so it's more flat and then put the CLD over it.
I understand the thought process.
Yeah.
That is me saying this. My answer is you guys are overthinking the deforming of the aluminum part in this case.
Okay.
And by adding more butyl, especially for low frequencies where, in door panels where you're getting a lot of flex, you don't want to give it too much. You don't want to give too much space and leeway from the actual aluminum to be able to constrain that butyl. You want to keep it thinner. So here goes Miguel. He's going to rip out his doors and redo them. But also when going over ridges and stuff, keeping it tight is actually beneficial. Like sometimes ridges, not ridges in the aluminum and butyl layer, but ridges on the panel. And when using a constrained layer damper from the panel to the ridge can actually help stabilize it even further. Really? Especially with the Mega CLD, and you get it on there really tight. I've never once cared about, oh no, we're deforming the aluminum too much. At the end of the day, take your CLD and get as much contact as you possibly can. That is rule number 1. Rule number 2 is then not beating the hell out of your aluminum too much. And inside of there, don't make your CLD thicker than it needs to be.
I still do it my way. I like it. Fuck it.
Right. Listen, buy more butyl rope for me. I don't care.
Listen, it's already in there. You and I both know once it's in there,
it's not coming out.
It's not coming out. So that's the way it's staying.
You got to get new door panels.
Yeah, pretty much. But okay, so CLDs beat to hell. So when I started this, that's all everyone knows, right? So kind of like Kleenex, everyone thinks it's tissue paper. It's Kleenex. Everyone thought of sound deadening or CLD as Dynamat. Right. Everyone and people still call it that. Like, what Dynamat should I use? Okay, got it.
Yeah. People call me and say, what Dynamat should I use?
Yeah. So it's like, but there's you offer
and I say you should use ResoNix.
My stuff. So we got FiberMat, right? You offer FiberMat, and then you offer barrier. You offer, I guess, the new version of black hole tiles, which is your Guardian.
Also offer lockout. We also offer closed cell foam decoupler tapes and sheets. We also offer the speaker strips to couple your speakers to their grills and panels. We offer
RCAs.
Yeah.
Right. And then we're going to talk about all your different products, but let's just focus there because sound deadening, that's where it started. So when did you go from like, okay, I need a CLD to, okay, now I'm going to offer true bespoke, like truly treat a vehicle sound deadening? Like, how did that happen?
So when ResoNix first started, we had 4 products. One of them was the CLD. Well, actually, no, 5 products. One of them was the CLD squares. One of them was the CLD rectangles, the thinner version. We also offered the butyl rope. We also had our closed cell foam. And then we also sold the same Velcro that Don from Sound Deadener Showdown was offering that people loved and couldn't find. It's like a certain model of Velcro that like is not sold in stores. It's only sold to like distributors, and sold by like the 50-yard roll or something like that. But yeah, that was our offerings. And I was like, all right, I was doing all of them at once. The big one was the constrained layer damper. Finding a proper version of it, finding a good factory to use that can actually handle my request, which was just high performing CLD without an order minimum that is, you know, an entire truckload.
And this is all US based, correct?
All of it. Yeah.
Just want to make sure we put that
especially for back then, you know, I don't really import anything. I get some of my speakers and stuff from overseas, you know, Accuton, Micro Precision, you know, that all comes from Europe. And importing, you know, bigger orders of that is a pain in the ass, dealing with US customs and a customs broker and blah, blah, blah. I couldn't imagine importing this stuff from China or wherever, somewhere in Asia, and the amount of restrictions and nonsense you have to go through. But so little old me back then, who didn't really know how the world worked, like it was also just easier for me to use US based companies. Gotcha. But they are also the only ones that can do what I was asking. You know, finding someone for the closed cell foam is actually easy. You know, butyl rope is a little tricky, but not the end of the world. Velcro, not the end of the world. And that was kind of it. And that remained ResoNix for probably a couple years.
And this was 2018, 2019?
29. So I actually have the email from Don pulled up right here.
Okay.
I put my order in on February 1st, and he emailed me February 2nd. And, you know, so February 2nd of 2019 was the day that ResoNix started to, started to form.
Yeah.
And the online store launched and had orders from, it was around my birthday. I think it was like, it was on my birthday, May 8th, that we launched it.
Okay. 2018?
2019. Same year. Shout out to my friend Jeremy for putting in the first order for ResoNix. Very proud of that. Another New York guy over here. Thank you, Jeremy, for your belief and faith in me. He still orders my products to this day. Anyways, yeah, it stayed like that for like 2 years because, again, I was like, I just want to supply myself with good stuff. And that was all I really needed. I was focusing on growing Apicella Auto Sound, you know, running that business and learning how to navigate that world. You know, I was just a kid at that time. You know, I mean, some people would say I'm still a kid. You know, I'm 33 years old now. But back then, you know, in 2019, I was 27 years old, 26 years old. And I was just figuring out life. I was figuring out how to run a business. I was still getting better and better at like doing installs. I was, you know, there was a lot going on. So for me to like sit and focus on what I considered just something to supply just another piece of my shop was like, you know, a lot. Maybe once a week or every other week, I would like package the 3 orders that came in for that week or 2 weeks, and get those out. And I didn't really think of anything else. I looked into getting a mass loaded vinyl. I actually looked into getting a FiberMat style sound absorber, but couldn't really find anything. Mass loaded vinyl I gave up on because there was no point, because car interiors were getting way too complex and way too tight tolerance to make it a viable option. And you couple that with, you get that shit on Amazon Prime
Yeah.
free shipping, and that stuff weighs 1,000,000 pounds. Like I can't compete with that. There's no point. MLV is MLV. As long as you're getting virgin MLV, it's all pretty much the same stuff. And the only thing that's really separates it is the price.
Gotcha.
So I was like, not even gonna bother, considering it's becoming obsolete due to how vehicles are being constructed, and considering how Amazon is coming into play. I didn't even bother. And then, I wanted to do something similar to black hole tiles, but I was like, why do something similar when I can just do black hole tiles? Like, it's already made. I don't have to sit here and figure stuff out. I don't have to whatever. And we offered that for a while, but then we started getting problems from customers like, hey, these are holding water in my car, or they're falling off. The adhesive's not holding. And I'm like, I've never had these problems. Like, what? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter if I personally have had these problems or not. My customers are having these problems. So I was like, let me go about fixing them. And that's when Guardian was born and Lockout was born. Over time,
between those two,
Guardian and Lockout, or Guardian and black hole tiles?
Guardian and Lockout.
Guardian and Lockout are the same thing, except Lockout does not feature the middle layer of mass loaded vinyl.
Okay. And what's the benefit of that for Guardian for people to know?
Two benefits. One, if you can get full or almost full coverage of Guardian on the outer door skin, you have an effective noise barrier inside of your door cavity. The main benefit of it is, picture a door mounted mid bass driver, right?
Yep.
That's mounted to the inner door skin, and the rear wave of the speaker is firing into the door cavity. Okay. And that energy is going back, and it is hitting and exciting the first solid structure that it hits, which is usually the outer door skin.
Yeah.
Right. Even though there's CLD on it, it's still hitting that structure and resonating it. The CLD is there to take care of the resonance, but it's still taking the brunt of that energy. My thought process was, and it proves to work out pretty damn well when using Lockout versus Guardian in a mid bass mounted in a door application, is if we put a free floating, mechanically decoupled layer of something that's heavy and dense and limp, essentially floating in air, that's not coupled to the outer door skin, we can essentially eliminate that or absorb and deflect like a lot of that energy that is exciting the second most problematic part of a door, which is the outer door skin. So instead of just absorbing and lowering the energy, we're reducing the amount of like the energy that is really being transferred from sound energy into mechanical energy in the outer door skin.
Wow.
Most of it is resonating that piece of MLV, which is irrelevant.
Yeah. And then you have the actual CLD behind that for your last layer of defense. Yeah.
Well, there's still also a little layer of melamine foam, just to, one, it provides an air gap, which is important for noise barriers. It provides decoupling layer which is important for noise barriers, and just a little bit further absorption. But yeah, then behind that is the constrained layer damper on top of the outer door skin. So essentially the short summary is its purpose is to lower the amount of sound energy that is getting to the outer door skin and is able to resonate it.
Gotcha.
It just lowers resonance further, lowers distortion further because there's less resonance in the system as a whole. Yeah. But Lockout is still a very viable, very, very viable option. And it's crazy. Everyone talks, I mean, not everyone, but a lot of people, like Guardian's really good, but it is kind of pricey. Frankly, hydrophobic melamine is not cheap, and the fabrication of it is not cheap. But it's mostly really the fabrication, like the labor that goes into it, that makes it kind of expensive. And Lockout, it's not that expensive, and it's a very viable option. And we sell not a lot of it.
Is there a thickness difference between the two?
Very slight. Lockout is 1 inch thick melamine foam. hydrophobic melamine foam that is backed with the, peel and stick adhesive layer.
Yeah.
And then it is topped with a facing. It actually changed recently to a reinforced vinyl. It's very thin, but believe it or not, there's going to be people that don't understand these materials and how acoustic absorption works that are going to call bullshit on this, but I promise you it's not. We have the data sheets to prove otherwise. And this is a very known thing in the acoustics field. Facings on absorbers can change the performance of the absorber, and you can essentially tune how the absorber behaves at certain frequencies.
Gotcha.
If you have a less porous facing on an absorber, the lesser porous it is, and like the less air pressure kind of lets through on its own, the better it will absorb lower frequencies. If it just goes straight through, it behaves like more in a linear fashion where like lower frequencies are harder to absorb and higher frequencies are easier. But if you look at the data sheet that we have for the facing, in it, we include, actually, I don't even know if I uploaded that to the current website. The new website has it all uploaded. I think I was just waiting because, frankly, this stuff just got in the other day anyways. But we improved the acoustic absorption by changing from the previous facing to this new facing. We doubled the acoustic absorption from 100 hertz up to 300 hertz.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
if I told anyone that who like doesn't, they'd be like, bullshit. And actually at 300 hertz, it doesn't double, it triples. Like it peaks at like 300 hertz, but like across that entire area, we pretty much doubled the acoustic absorption. But at higher frequencies, we reduced the absorption. But inside of a door cavity, going from speaker, inner door skin towards the outer door skin, we don't need to absorb high frequencies. And why I made the call, like, that's okay, is, we're mostly concerned with the lower frequencies that way. Coming from outside in, we're concerned with high frequencies, but that's not going through that facing. We also have mass lip vinyl there. You have inch thick melamine foam. It's fine. So we have a really special product there, I think.
Yeah, I mean, dude, across the board, your product is special, and I'm not saying that because you're my friend. Just it works.
Oh, you were cutting out there. I don't know. Hello.
We're back. There we go. Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
All right. But like I was saying, like, I love your product all the way around because it works. And I say that in the most like genuine way. Like, to me, the most special thing about your products, I don't have to think about it. When it's on there, I'm not like, is this thing going to melt in Florida heat or Arizona heat or anything? It's just going to work and it's going to do its job. And I don't got to think about it. And when I'm done tearing my car apart and putting it all back together, I'm not questioning, like, man, I really hope all this money and time and effort made a difference. Like, I know it's going to make a difference.
Oh, of course.
So yeah, dude, like, that's why I recommend your product to all my customers, and it just works. So
thank you.
The last question I have, now that you mentioned about your lockout, I just thought about it. Then we're going to go into your new speaker designs. When you have a mid-range mounting the dash, which is just open in the bottom, could you use what's better, lockout or FiberMat, to absorb kind of the back wave sound?
Practical application, FiberMat. Just because melamine foam is very stiff and very brittle and hard to like. It's not like typical open cell foam. Like, it's very tough. So it's not really, you wouldn't really be able to get it inside of a dash anyways, unless you had like some custom dash top that's like huge and like it was like a giant enclosure in there. Yeah. So honestly, it's not even really a question of which one is better. It's more of a question of which one is even able to be used in this application. Yeah.
All right.
So
good to know. So FiberMat. And then in enclosures, like sub enclosures, beforehand, everyone's thing was just like polyfill. Yeah. When I did my front sub with Luke, we lined it with 1-inch FiberMat and worked beautifully. Why is FiberMat better? How much of it? So what I did and what we did was just line the outside of it. We didn't double stack or nothing. We just lined the outside, threw it in there, called it a day. Yep. What's the correct way? Is there a wrong way? Is there too much FiberMat can be stuffed inside of it where it just starts like compressing it versus actually benefiting? Can you talk a little bit?
Yeah. So there is actually testing on this. I didn't do the testing. It's not really official, But David Weiner tested different absorption materials inside of a sub-enclosure using his JL Max. He did RTA testing. He did, I think it was impedance measurements. I forget offhand what it was. It was kind of a couple years ago. I think he did it. So I'm not remembering offhand. But it proved exactly what I've been telling people for a while. And everyone's like, bullshit, Nick's just trying to sell product. No, there's different properties to different sound absorbers that make some better than others. And it's pretty straightforward. At the end of the day, a fibrous sound absorber works by sound energy passing through the air that makes up the area around the fibers. And as it passes through that, fiber and air structure, the fibers vibrate. The sound hits it, the fibers vibrate. That vibration is the conversion of sound energy into mechanical energy into heat, minuscule, irrelevant amounts of heat. And the more that those fibers can vibrate when that same amount of sound energy hits them, the more it's absorbing, period. And there's a few things that make those fibers not vibrate as much or as easily. What makes them not vibrate as much is compressing them too much. The manufacturers, the factories that make these products, that do the engineering, take 3M Thinsulate, for example.
Yeah.
The biggest, most well-known sound absorber in the world.
Yep.
The engineers at 3M didn't just start spitting out melt-blown polypropylene into a mat and say, yeah, we have a sound absorber.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, how thick do we make these fibers? How do we layer them on top of each other? What orientation do we layer them on top of each other? Do we alternate? Do we do this way? Do we do that way? Do we do this? Do we do that? Do we test this? Do we do different types of fibers? Do we do this facing? Do we do no facing? There's all of these different things that come into play, but they all kind of matter. And they're spacing them out just enough to where the fibers can still move freely as much as possible, but are also dense enough to where it's not like, hey, there's too much air in here to where the sound is like, you could fit more fibers in there without detracting the performance.
Gotcha.
So there is a fine tuning to it, but compressing it might help with lower frequencies or higher frequencies, or it's just going to change things. But getting to the point of so to continue on this point, looking at something like FiberMat versus standard polyfill for a subwoofer enclosure application or mid-bass or mid-range application, polyfill is just, that couch right there. It's probably full of polyfill. Yeah. I don't know. I have no idea what's in it, but it's meant for all sorts of nonsense. It's not really an acoustic absorber, but it behaves as an acoustic absorber. You can see the thickness of the fibers in polyfill. Yeah. Like you can pull out an individual hair and be like, oh, like this, it's like fishing line almost. Yep. Maybe a little thinner than fishing line. The fibers of FiberMat and proper fibrous sound absorbers are so much thinner than that. Like so much thinner than that, to where they are it's so much easier to excite those fibers mechanically, to where they're going to absorb a lot better and a lot easier. They're going to convert that sound energy into mechanical energy so much more efficiently.
Okay.
Just because it's easier to excite them. That's it. Now, what makes our FiberMat special over other products is it is the only one of its kind. Not just that it's, black, which people like when working with automotive stuff and automotive interiors, but, our first version of FiberMat, as was the white material. Yep, the white. And that was what's called a melt-blown fibrous sound absorber. The way it works is this machine melts plastic and it spits it out into like a web of these microscopic fibers, right?
Okay.
The inherent upsides of melt-blown sound absorbers is they are really good for sound absorption. Like out of the machine, they're incredible.
Okay.
The upsides stop right there though. The downsides are the material is not stable in any which way, shape, or form, structurally speaking. So like how I said before, they're tuned very specifically. Like out of the machine, it's very important that, okay, like we have this much density over this much thickness, right?
Yeah.
It's very important. The problem was, I had FiberMat 25 and FiberMat 45, 25 millimeter thickness, 45 millimeter thickness. By the time they got from the factory to me, and they were piled in these giant boxes and they're just stacked on top of each other. They're not rolled up. It's just the material loaded into this giant box and they're stacked on top of each other. Boxes put on a pallet and they're shipped to me.
Okay.
I think there would be about 50 in a box or 40 in a box for the half inch. No, or not half inch, the 20, the 1 inch 25 millimeter.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit less of the 45 millimeter. By the time they got to me, let's say the box was, this tall.
Okay.
And apparently it's full. Like they put this like custom top in it. They make the box custom. By the time it gets to me, it's only 2/3 the way full. And it's like, I call them like, hey, why didn't you just put more in here so I could save money on shipping?
Yeah.
And they're like, that thing's full. And I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? It's full. You can fit 30 more sheets in here.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, yeah, so it's compressing. And I was like, yeah, that was my next question. Why is it not actually 45 millimeters thick? Why is it only 30 millimeters thick or 33 millimeters thick? Why is it 30 millimeters thick on the bottom and 40 millimeters on the top?
Yeah.
Because the material is compressing itself just from its own weight.
Wow.
And just from shipping, just from the product like moving around. Then we have to take it out of these big boxes. We have to roll it up and put it in a box to ship it to the customer. That completely annihilates. It doesn't make it useless. Like it's not like we're making it completely ineffective and rendering it completely useless. But what's happening is we're reducing the absorption capabilities just from a use case. Just by handling it.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, who never touched the white stuff, it is extremely light. So seeing that it compresses by its own weight kind of just lets you know that these fibrous materials do not hold their structure well. Yeah.
So, that was a problem. Then, how they're constructed again, these fibers are blown into a web that makes a very thin sheet, like less than paper thin. And then the sheets are stacked on top of each other. So like the white stuff, do you remember like pulling it apart and you could see the different layers to it? It almost looked like a croissant, like the inside of like a croissant. Those are these different things. And all of those sheets just start getting compressed on top of each other. And then, you go to peel the backing. What happened with the adhesive layer? It would peel the back off and the facing would come off. And it's like, it got to the point where I was like, oh my God, I need to find another solution. And the solution we found was the new version of FiberMat, which is our FiberMat Black Edition. We saw it in the 1 inch and the half inch, and it is, oh my God, it is so great. It is so much better. So they're on paper. If we look at the data sheets, out of the machine, the white FiberMat was a slightly better sound absorber. Not by much, but it was slightly better.
Out of the machine.
Out of the machine. I never put it this way. Anyone who's ever held our FiberMat has never seen it at its full performance capability, period. But out of the machine, it's able to do X amount. But the second you touch it, the second you look at it wrong, it's no longer the same material it once was. The new material is constructed in a totally different way. And it retains structure. So you compress it. If I wanted to, I could vacuum seal that stuff and ship it to a customer. They could pop that vacuum seal, like those like bag vacuum things where you can compress stuff down, like microfiber towels come in. I could do that with it. I should actually probably look into that for shipping. That might save some space and some money. Anyways, I could do that. Customer could get it, pop that open, and it'll immediately compress.
So there's no weight.
There is what?
there's no waiting, because you know how like some sound panels, they come in that vacuum seal and you gotta wet it, then you gotta wait like a whole day for it to like rehold its shape.
Sound absorbing panels that do that? I
Yeah,
don't know.
so go on Amazon, like buy like the cheap like
Oh,
$10
you're
stuff.
talking about home stuff.
Yeah, home stuff, and they come in like these vacuum sealed. Of course, it
Okay.
doesn't do anything, but
Yeah,
you have to wet it and then wait like a whole day to like bring back its shape. But with this, it just goes back normally.
Speaking of wetting a sound absorber, why you shouldn't use FiberMat indoors inside of door cavities. You can use it in door panels, no problem. Or why you shouldn't go and use like basic open cell foam or egg crate foam or try to make your own. You know, the second a sound absorber gets wet, it's going to hold water.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether that water does anything to it or not is a different story. You know, FiberMat, the inside of it will hold water, but it will not grow mold. It will not grow mildew. It won't do any of that, but it will hold water. The facing is hydrophobic. But if your sound absorber has water in it, it is no longer able to pass that sound energy through it and excite those fibers. It is no longer acting as a sound absorber. So going back to the black hole tiles, when they were holding water, water has a super high surface tension, and you put it inside of a door cavity where there's no sunlight. There's no air circulation. So like, it's not like it's evaporating quickly anyway.
Yeah.
As soon as they're getting wet, they're staying wet for weeks. And all of a sudden you have a sound absorber that's doing nothing for weeks on end. You can bet your ass that it's raining again within those weeks.
Yeah.
And they're just going to stay wet constantly, and it's not going to absorb sound. We won't even get into the negative effects of what water does to the material or the car, but it's just not acting as a sound absorber if it's wet. So that's why we use hydrophobic melamine specifically for the inside of door cavity use.
Gotcha. So how about for fenders?
How about for what?
Fenders, because I use FiberMat in fenders, and my Mazda I didn't really have an issue with.
It's fine. In most vehicles, if you ever look, so most people watching this probably haven't taken apart as many vehicles as I have.
Yeah.
You know, and unfortunately, sometimes these cars come in after they've driven through the rain, and even on top of that, I just look for my own. You know, I don't just like start doing stuff on a whim. Like, I'm gonna see. Like, I thought of that. Like, shit. Like, you know, should I put it there? I was like, it's probably not a good idea. This, that, blah, 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 water, heat, whatever you might think. And then, you know, when we were doing a lot of radar and laser installs, where we're running, you know, radar detectors and laser jammers into the bumpers of the vehicle, to run wires, a lot of times we have to take out the fender liners.
Yeah.
And I started noticing, I was like, wait, almost all of these higher end vehicles have a sound absorber on the back of the fender liner.
Yeah.
I was like, and this is while like when I like just came out with FiberMat, I was like, yeah, but these are higher end vehicles. Like, they're probably built a little bit different to where water's not getting in there. And I started paying attention from there on out. I started paying attention. I would drive my car. I'd look like, you know, I'd try to get in there. Is there water in here? Most of the time, there's even the rest of the car is soaked, there's no water in there.
Yeah.
Think about it. The hood and fenders completely cover that area on the top. And in the bottom, you just have the tire spraying the fender liner. Water's not really it's open to the engine, but like water, drive your car in the rain, open your hood. Is your engine wet?
No. Shouldn't be.
No. It's not. Like, so water's not, people like do bring that up to me. Like, yeah, but Nick, water's not really getting in there. Sure, maybe a little bit. A little bit's fine. It's not the end of the world. I
never had an issue with my Mazda, and I had it there. I had the white one beforehand.
And and yours was, I remember you showed me. Yeah. And I was like, yours is open to the, like, yours is covered in no which way, shape, or form. Usually you have the fender liner and the fender covers it. Yours was like fender and then wheel liner, and you're looking from the engine bay, like right